Welcome back. So the Qs have been very, very cautious. We've been telling you that most of the Asian markets are a shade of red. Let's see if the Nifty can buck that trend. Right now, the implied open is in sync with the global Qs, down about 25 odd points. So what about individual stocks? Well, our team is standing by with the CNBC-TV18 list of top stocks to watch. Guys, morning to all of you. Let's start, Hormaz, with you. Lots of news coming in over the last couple of hours overnight on the Adani Group. Fill us in.
It's back in the news again, isn't it? The Adani Group and the US District Court and the US SEC both have come out with their respective orders against the Adani Group. Now, what the US District Court has had to say, and I'm reproducing this verbatim, is that in or about and between 2020 and 2024, senior executives of an Indian renewable energy company, which was a portfolio company of an Indian conglomerate, an issuer company that operated in the renewable energy sector, whose securities were traded on the US exchange, and that issuer's largest shareholder, who is a Canadian institutional investors, participated in a scheme to bribe Indian government officials to ensure execution of lucrative solar energy supply contracts with Indian government entities. Now, during the same period, senior executives of the Indian renewable energy company conspired to misrepresent the company's anti-bribery practices to US-based investors and international financial institutions, and concealed from those same investors and institutions their bribery of Indian government officials to obtain billions of dollars in financing for green energy projects, including the corrupt solar energy supply contracts. And lastly, the court order also says that in addition, senior executives of the issuer company and its Canadian institutional investor conspired to obstruct the US government's investigation into the bribery scheme. So who does this order name? It names Gautam Adani, the chairman of the Adani Group, Sagar Adani, who is the executive director of Adani Green Energy, Vineet Jain, the MD and CEO of Adani Green Energy, Ranjit Gupta, the former CEO of Azure Power, Cyril Sabanis, and three other individuals as well, Saurabh Agrawal, Deepak Malhotra, and Rupesh Agrawal. Now, in addition to this, the Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, has also mentioned, and I quote, that Gautam Adani and Sagar Adani orchestrated a bribery scheme that involved paying or promising to pay the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars in bribes to Indian government officials to secure their commitment to purchase energy at above market rates that would benefit Adani Green and Azure Power. And as alleged, Gautam and Sagar Adani were engaged in the bribery scheme during a September 2021 note offering by Adani Green that raised $750 million, of which approximately $175 million were raised from US investors, and that Adani Green offering materials, including statements about its anti-corruption and anti-bribery efforts, were materially false or misleading in light of their conduct, is what the SEC has said. Now, in response, GQG, who's been an earlier investor in the Adani Group in the height of the Hindenburg scandal last year, said that they are monitoring the charges against Gautam Adani and others and reviewing their details for action, if any, required in their portfolio. And they also say that 90% of their clients' assets are issued in issuers unrelated to the Adani Group as per their portfolio diversification strategy. So the Adani Group stocks will remain in focus. Expect them to open in the red today.
Hormuz, thanks very much for that. So there are just two more things. One, of course, is the fact that all these charges relate to, from the US side, relate to things which have happened here in India. But the reason why these charges have been brought is because of fundraising related to some of these projects, underlying projects, which are being sort of executed here in the country. So I just wanted to sort of put that on the table as well. Hormuz, thanks again for that. Apart from, of course, Adani, we're talking about near term. Keep an eye out on some of these PSU banks as well, which are lenders to the group as well. Well, more on that as we go along. UPL should be in focus today. Sonal is here to tell us why. Sonal, morning.
Good morning, Prashant. Well, UPL will be in focus because their subsidiary has received some money. It is via stake sale, 12.5% in Advanta's seed business, where Alpha Wave Global will be investing $350 million to acquire that 12.5% stake. Remember, Advanta is the subsidiary of UPL, which has already received some money from other investors as well. The transaction is a combination of primary sale, where they will be receiving an investment of $100 million, and secondary share sale by UPL to the tune of $250 million in Advanta by UPL. The primary proceeds will be used in the business of Advanta seeds and for their inorganic and organic growth, and the secondary money will be used for deleveraging their balance sheet, something that UPL had been talking about for a long period of time. Now, remember, this deal values Advanta at $2.8 billion, and when KKR had invested around $300 million, that valued Advanta EV at $2.25 billion. So there's a valuation upside that we are seeing with this deal. So going with green here. Also, the company has announced that they will be doing a rights issue to the tune of 3,377 crore rupees. This is at 360 rupees per share. It's lowered from that 4,200 crore rupees that they wanted to raise earlier. But yes, these two events positive for UPL. See some green tick on the stock today.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that, Sonal. Well, let's hop across to Vamakshi. She's here to tell us about that big deal that was announced on PSP projects. Morning, Vamakshi. Vivek gave us a heads up, and that is official now.
Well, absolutely, Nigel. Very good morning to you. Yes, it's a CNBC-TV18 news break confirmed. Adani Infra Limited will be acquiring nearly 30% stake in PSP projects for almost 685 crores from PSP projects as existing promoter, Mr. Prahlad Bhai S. Patel. Currently, Mr. Patel and his family own nearly 60% stake in the company. Now, since the Adani Group is acquiring a stake of almost 30%, which is above the 25% threshold, it also triggers an open offer. The open offer price has been determined at 642.06 rupees per share, which is coming in at a nearly 4% discount to the current market price. In addition to that, let me quickly take you through some of the important takeaways from the conference call that was held yesterday. They say that the partnership will propel PSP car projects into becoming one of the leading EPC companies in India. They also highlighted that currently the company is under discussion with Adani Group for four projects worth almost 3,000 crores. They also plan to tap into opportunities that come through from the Adani Group operating. They also want to increase their operational expertise by entering into newer segments like airports, data centers, with the use of their precast technology. So overall, going with the green for PSP projects on the back of this deal.
Okay, all right. With the caveat that obviously when the overarching sentiment is a little cautious in the Adani Group of stocks because of other issues emanating from the US. We'll take that on board. Vamakshi, thank you very much for that. Let's go to Vinny. She's watching out for a bunch of stocks as well. Vinny, morning.
Good morning. Yes, so few stocks that I'm keeping an eye out on today. We have Dr. Reddy's. We're expecting a bit of a red here because the US FDA has come out with the Form 483-7 observations. This is for its Balaram API facility, which is in Hyderabad. The inspection was carried out somewhere between 13th of November to 19th of November. Obviously, we have to wait out for the further details of what kind of observations are these. But the company has obviously said that they will be working with the US FDA and will reply to them within the stipulated time. But yes, as of now, 7 observations. So red is what we're expecting. Tata Power, we're expecting a positive up move here as the company has entered into a strategic partnership with Drug Green Power Corporation and they will be collaborating to develop around 5,000 megawatt of clean energy generation, and this is going to be in Bhutan. Let's not forget, Drug Green Power Corporation is the sole generation utility in Bhutan, so a big project coming in for Tata Power. Aegis Logistics, we are keeping an eye on that one as well, as the company's subsidiary Aegis Wopak Terminals has filed for a DRHP, which is around a 3,500 crore IPO is what they're looking at, and this is mainly going to be a fresh issue. There is no offer for sale that is mentioned, so keep an eye out on Aegis Logistics. Lastly, telecom companies, specifically Indus Towers, is what we're keeping an eye out on. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled out yesterday, that's Wednesday, that telecoms can now avail tax credits for duties that were paid for infrastructures like towers, parts, shelters, printers and chairs against the service tax that they have and they were paying providing the cellular services. So keep an eye out on that. Indus Tower has come out with a notification saying that this would be significantly positive for them and they would be around, there would be a reduction in the contingent liability of around 3,700 crores. So green expected here.
Okay, all right, Vinny, thanks a lot for running us through all of those stocks. But let's wind this down with Upasana, who's joining in to fill us in with a few more stocks that she's tracking. Morning, Upasana.
Good morning, Nigel. First up, let me start with NLC India. The company will be investing up to 3,720 crore for various renewable projects to acquire stakes of wholly owned subsidiary, that is NLC India Renewables, for transferring of renewable assets under the company's asset monetization plan. Now, net book value of assets in the books of the ongoing projects of NLC as of 30th September stands at 6,263 crore. Next up is GNFC. Even this stock will be in focus as company signs a MOU with INEOS to build a new world-scale acetic acid unit in India, and the company will be forming a JV company for this, which will carry on the business in relation to the construction and operation of the world-scale acetic acid plant in India. Lastly, Godavari Power will also be in focus as company forays into recycling of non-ferrous metal and acquires 51% stake in Jammu Pigments Limited for 255 crores. Now, company has stated that it will infuse 175 crores in Jammu Pigments for repayment of unsecured debt and growth capital, and will acquire shares worth 79 crores from existing promoters of Jammu Pigments. So all in all these stocks will remain on our radar today.
Okay, all right, got it. Upasna, thanks very much for bringing them to us, all of them on the list as well. So let's quickly recap the top stocks that you need to watch out for today. The ones that have positive news flow are UPL, PSP Projects, Tata Power, Aegis Logistics, Telecom stocks, NLC, GNFC and Godavari Power. Stocks with negative news flow are the Adani group of stocks as well as Dr. Reddy's.